Wow, the adventure market, it's been a crazy year this last year. We've got new bikes coming out every year, and this last year was a really good one. We're going to go over several of them, but I'm going to pick my top three, and we're going to find out which one I would buy today. And believe me, I think it's changed a little bit over the last 8 to 10 months. Welcome back to the Skitch on Wheels channel. Today we're going to talk about the top three picks of mine for the lightweight ADV bike division. Do me a favor, if you like motorcycle content, please hit that subscribe button. Today's ADV market, I feel we have three divisions or three categories. We have lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight. Today I'm going to give you my top three lightweight that I think are the cream of the crop. Now if you want to watch and see what my middleweight and heavyweights are, those videos will be coming out shortly as well. But first, we've got to set some ground rules.
What in the hell is wrong with you?
We're going to have to define what a lightweight ADV bike is. So let's start with the lightweight. So for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to go by weight because we can take a 300-pound bike and put 100 pounds worth of luggage on it, and now it becomes something else than what it was sold to us as. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say anything under 500 cc's is going to be considered my lightweight ADV bike. But what's an ADV bike? We have to define that because we have enduro, we also have dual sport, and somewhere in there between dual sport and ADV, that becomes blurred. Those lines become blurred. And so we're going to stick with a true ADV bike by this definition. It's my definition, and this is where the controversy comes in because you all probably have your own definition of what a true ADV bike is. My definition goes something like this. An adventure bike is a versatile, long-distance touring motorcycle. It's designed to perform on-road and reasonably well off-road, but it must be comfortable, have a large fuel tank for extended range, and have the capacity to carry some form of luggage. So what an ADV bike is not, it's not an enduro bike. An enduro bike to me is a motocross bike that's street legal. Single track, weekends, just riding off-road. Another thing the ADV bike is not is a dual sport bike. A dual sport bike can be made an ADV bike, but again, we're going off of what's on the showroom floor. You buy it, you bring it home, you don't do any modifications to it, you ride it the way it is. And in my mind, a true dual sport bike is just going to be about 200, 300 mile trip. It's not going to be anything more than that. And even at that, that's a little bit of long distance. Now, I know that you can upgrade your dual sport and make it a really comfortable, nice ADV bike, but purposes of this video, it's what you get off the showroom floor. So who are the lightweight players? Well, we've got KTM 390 Adventure R, Kove 450 Rally SL, BMW F450 GS, Honda CRF300L Rally, CFMoto Ibex 450, Royal Enfield Himalayan 450, and the Kawasaki KLE500 SE. These manufacturers have a solid entry into the 2025 field and some coming in 2026. Let's get started. Right now I'm going to pick the top three bikes in the lightweight category, and I think these are the best three options. But first, right off the bat, let's eliminate four bikes. And we have to start with the very first one, the BMW F450 GS. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but the main reason is this bike isn't even in production yet. This BMW could be the leader of the class, but we're a year later from it first being introduced, and we're not much farther along. Yeah, we're getting closer and closer, and with each new show every year, we get to see a little bit more, we get to learn a little bit more, but BMW still says it's not going to be released until the end of 2026. So whatever happened to the days where you would go to the EICMA show, and then the next quarter, you would get the bike out on the market and in the showrooms. Now we're taking a year, 2 years. Not all companies are doing that, but BMW is. So I don't have a lot of faith in when this bike will come into play. So at this time, we don't have enough information. Maybe the biggest thing that we don't know with the BMW is how much is this bike going to cost? You know, if it's on the other side of $10,000, $11,000, that might put it out there to where it just isn't a viable option for some of us. So we're going to have to eliminate the BMW F450 GS.
Eliminated.
Next up to be eliminated, the Kove 450 Rally SL. And this was not an easy choice, as you might think. There's a big following of riders out there that love this Kove bike. And it's a great bike. It's an awesome bike. I can see why. But when we're talking about our top 3 lightweight ADV bikes, this one just didn't make that list. So the Kove 450 has been out for about a year, so we know a little bit about it. And what people are saying about it is that it's a good rally bike, and that's what it's built for. Big wide open spaces running at top end. But as far as the highway goes, it's not a very good highway bike. It is very uncomfortable to ride any length of distance on the highway. The next point folks have pointed out is that it's really sluggish at the lower RPMs, which that makes sense because they call this a rally bike and it's going to run at high PMs like we've already talked about. So it really shouldn't have a lot of aggressive torque low end, and that can be a problem, especially if you're riding a lot of woods. Also, a good ADV bike needs good dealership support. And not that the dealers aren't worthy and good and take care of their customers, but they're just too far and few between, especially in the Midwest. They seem to be a lot on the East Coast, the West Coast, up north a little bit, and then down south. But there's a big area of the country that can't get any Kove dealerships close to them. Getting some technical support and getting your bikes fixed while you're out on the road riding, it can be a little difficult depending on which part of the country you live in. And finally, another reason why I eliminate the Kove is it's loud. And I know that could be a silly reason for some of you, and I don't mind loud for a couple hours, but when we're talking 3, 4, 5 hours of riding, loud gets old. I've had bikes that are loud, and I've experienced that, and it just gets old, all that rattling and all that loud noise all the time. So it's nice to have a quiet bike, at least when you're my age. So let's be honest, the Kove probably isn't a true ADV bike, and it shouldn't probably be on my list. But I did a video about a year ago about lightweight ADV bikes and didn't know a whole lot about the Kove, and it didn't make my list at all. And the number one thing that was posted in the comments was so many people asking, where's the Kove 450? Where's the Kove 450? And so I did my homework, and I've learned a lot about it since then. And you know what? It deserves to be on this list, but it also is going to get eliminated right away.
Eliminated.
Our third bike getting eliminated, and this is a difficult one to do, and I hate to do it, but there's no replacement for displacement, and that's what I'll say about this bike. I'm going to eliminate the Honda CRF300L Rally. It just doesn't have enough pep. It's not even 300 cc's, it's 286 cc's. And as far as horsepower goes, we're coming in at around 27 horsepower. I know it's a gem of a bike and it does great things off-road. I've just been on bikes that have had lower horsepower like this and low cc's, and it just doesn't do it for me. Another point with the Honda is the gas tank is on the smaller side for these bikes at 3.4 gallons. And I guess that's not a huge deal. I've ridden in bikes with less, but anytime you can get a half a gallon more, that's going to help you out in the long run. And 3.4 is just a little small. I know that's going to upset some of you that this bike didn't make the top 3 because a lot of you own this bike and Honda sold a lot. It would be nice if they had a CRF300 Rally. Now there's a bike I could stand behind and get involved in, and hopefully they'll do that soon. But 286 cc's and 27 horsepower just isn't going to cut it this time. And there's one other thing, the final thing. Oh yeah, it's only got 27 horsepower. For those reasons, I'm going to get rid of the Honda CRF300L Rally.
Eliminated.
I really can't end on a sour note with this bike. The Honda CRF300 Rally is an incredible bike, and if you're someone that's just starting out in adventure riding, please go look at this bike because it really is a great value. My fourth and final bike that I'm going to eliminate from my top 3 is the new Kawasaki KLE500 SE. And the reason is we still don't know a whole lot about it. And it's one of those bikes that looks good when you look at it, but on paper it's just not as great as it could be, and especially when it comes to off-road riding. The specs are just now coming out on this bike. The shocks look fine, but the ground clearance is 6.9 inches. Now I know some new specs came out just the other day that Kawasaki put out showing that it has 7.3 inches of clearance, and I'm not sure how that happened unless Kawasaki saw all the reviews and the videos that people are making, realizing that there's been some big complaints about how off-road capable this bike is, and we really don't know. There just needs to be some more testing, and because of that, that's why I'm going to eliminate this bike. Who knows? I hope it comes out and it's better than we ever thought it would be, but for now,
It's eliminated.
time to move on to our top 3 lightweight ADV bikes of the year. And we know this time next year this could all be different. But right now, in my opinion, this is the best of the best. And we're going to start with the KTM 390 Adventure R. Let's take a look and see where it shines. For years, there's been a knock on small displacement bikes and how they're not highway capable. Well, this 390 is definitely highway capable. 70-75 mile an hour. It has no problem with that. It's got a 6 gear. It's got a great windshield out front that blocks the wind. So this is probably one of the most comfortable bikes on the highway. So off-road is where this bike really shines, and it has the R tag, and it's earned that R tag. It has class-leading front suspension with 9 inches of travel and ground clearance of 10.7 inches. That's almost 3 inches more than what the Kawasaki KLE500 has. With the KTM, you get some different rider aids, different traction control and throttle responses, and these all can aid in the rider, especially a new rider or novice rider can use these different settings to feel more comfortable on the bike. You also get an ABS switch that's easy to turn off and on, and it'll remember it even when you turn your bike off and turn it back on again. Now the KTM 390 is not as good as some off-road enduro bikes, but it's really trying to get close. Comfort is key in the lightweight ADV class, and KTM has done a good job here with their seat. They've got a step seat, and it actually lowers the position of the rider so it can accommodate some shorter riders. They say the seat is wide yet comfortable. Add to that seat comfort, you throw in KTM's own WP suspension that's fully adjustable, and you're able to dial that in both on the highway or if you're going off-road. Something else that makes the KTM a little bit better than the others, it's 50 pounds lighter than the other 2 top bikes in this class. And we know if you're lighter on off-road, you're going to have more control and you're going to build confidence. KTM does have some modifications that you can get, including a quick shifter. And I've had a quick shifter on an MT-09 and I just loved it. And especially off-road, that would be really handy to have if you're a beginner rider. It just can build your confidence. The bike also can have cruise control. Some people say that it's going to be offered on the 2026 model. We'll just have to wait and see. So here's a big plus for the KTM. We all know when it came out that there was a lot of problem with the bike stalling, and it didn't have any low-end torque. And I really believe that through YouTube and creators doing reviews on this bike, that it got into KTM's ear and they realized they had a problem that they had to fix. And they've come up with an upgrade for the ECU that supposedly helps the stalling, helps give it better low-end torque. So good on you, KTM, for seeing what was wrong with this motor, or at least the ECU electronics, and fixing that for everybody, or at least in the process of fixing that. Those are some really good features for KTM, and you can see why that's made my top 3. But you know what? There's also some things that suck. Some of the quality of parts is not up to par for KTM. We're used to performance parts on some of their upper end models, and really this is a lower end model. It's a nice KTM and it does a lot, and I don't think they've cut corners on suspension and engine and things like that, but it is made in India, not a knock on India, but they're looking to lower the price on this bike, and I think I've heard with some of the plastics, some of the levers, some of the more hardware type things, that their quality is not the way it's been in the past with KTM. The second sucky thing is that it stalls too easy. We talked a little bit previously about the ECU, but really out of the box, man, this bike just stalled all the time. There wasn't a video out there I didn't watch or people I talked to that weren't having trouble at low RPMs with this bike stalling just for no reason. It just would quit. Some of that had to do with the kickstand, which was a problem. So anytime the kickstand would get bumped or you'd go over a bump or you hit it with the heel of your boot, it would kill the engine. It was very sensitive, and so what people have done is they've actually bypassed that switch, or else they've even taken zip ties and tied their kickstand up so that it won't kill the engine. Kind of a follow-up to the stalling issue is the low end torque. This bike is rev happy. You have to have it in the higher revs to get anywhere, to take off from a dead stop, and that's just not good off-road riding. If you're a new rider and you've got to rev this thing up to get going, it's not going to be a fun experience. Thankfully, they probably have the fix worked out like we talked about, but out of the box, yeah, it was not a good experience for a lot of riders with the low end torque and the stalling. Got to tip my hat to KTM. We've got a bike here that is less expensive than most of their other bikes, and it has its quirks, but the soul of the bike is a KTM, and it's going to do great off-road. And the fact that they've made this highway usable, this is as close to a 50-50 bike as I've seen. So next up, the second on the top 3 list is a sentimental favorite of mine, and that's the Royal Enfield Himalayan 450. So let's see where it shines. Now, we all remember the 411 as not being highway capable, and this 450 is totally different than the 411, so just erase that from your minds. The 450 now has a 6th gear, and it is comfortable riding at 70-75 mile an hour on the highway. And I rode this bike for about 2.5 hours and had no problems passing people, staying up to speed at 70-75. There was little vibration, little buzz. It was a very comfortable bike.
Oh my gosh, will you look at that? I'm in a 6th gear. What the heck? What are you doing, Himalayan? That's the gear I've been missing in the 411.
And so as we're talking about comfort, that's the second thing this bike has going for it. It's a smooth, nice, comfortable ride. And you've got that step seating. It's a nice wide seat, puts you in a really good position whether you're standing or sitting. What's been surprising about the 450 is how well it does off-road. It comes with a whole new suspension set up by Showa. Now, it's not fully adjustable. You can adjust the rear shock with some preload, but I've heard that you don't need to do a whole lot to this bike and that people are really pleased with the suspension that comes stock with this bike. And if it's anything like the 411, which was called the Tractor and could do anything and go anywhere, the 450 is going to be even better at that. And so I think it's going to be a very versatile bike, both on-road and off-road. Another great thing about the Himalayan is its price point. You get a lot for your money. You get electronic fuel injection now, it's liquid cooled motor, and it also has a nice large TFT screen. And it does have rider modes on it, and it also has the ABS switch that you can turn on and off. Add to that, you can get it in 2 different models, tubed or tubeless tires. And I think it's about a $300 upgrade for the tubeless model. And you get all this for $63.99. So it's tough to beat that price, and it's lowest in class. Along with that great value that you get with the bike, you're also getting a 3-year unlimited warranty, which speaks volumes as far as Himalayans standing behind their bikes. And if you're someone that logs a ton of miles, that's an important thing to think about. And if you do break down, they're going to have roadside assistance. So those are the good points. Let's move on to some of the points that suck. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the windshield. This windshield doesn't do a whole lot. It's about the size of a postage stamp. It actually is probably only protecting the display out front. So if you're going to ride this bike a lot on the highway and put some miles on it, you're going to want to upgrade that and get a little bit bigger windscreen. Next up, the suspension is good, but it's not fully adjustable. And if you're someone that likes to make some fine-tune adjustments, this might not be the bike for you when it comes to the suspension. Now, another thing is this bike is heavy. It's the heaviest in class at 432 pounds, and it's top heavy. This bike can be difficult to lift when you drop it. Another thing that's kind of sucky is that it doesn't have any type of traction control. And a lot of you advanced riders, that's not a big deal, but for new riders and novice riders, that can really save you, and it would be a nice feature for those that are just getting into the ADV market. And as long as we're talking on traction, the back wheel's 17 inches and not 18 inches. And it doesn't sound like a big deal. And for the average rider, it's not going to be a big deal. But when you come to looking for tire replacements, there is a limited supply that fits the 17-inch tire. And on my 411 that I had previously that I changed the tires on, there was some limitation as far as what would fit that rear wheel. Since we've been talking about traction and tires, let's get to our final negative point. And that's the stock tires are not very good. They do good and they're adequate on road, but really if you're going to take this bike off-road, that's one of the things you're going to need to change. So that's the Himalayan 450. And it's a really good bike. It's a good value. I think, like I said, it's a sentimental favorite of mine, and you can't go wrong if you purchase this bike. Let's move on now to the last bike that makes my top 3. The CFMoto Ibex 450, and this is a great bike, and let's look at some of the features that make it shine. So this bike is both fun on-road and off-road. This Ibex 450 has an 8.7 inch ground clearance and has fully adjustable suspension, and it's been known to do really well on the off-road, but I wouldn't put it there against the KTM 390 Adventure R. It just doesn't have the off-road capabilities that that bike does, but it's probably the second best bike off-road. But where the Ibex 450 shines over the KTM is its highway use, and it really is a comfortable ride on the highway. It's a little bit bigger bike, it handles bigger, it's more like a mid-size ADV bike. Even though it has the smaller 450 engine, it just feels planted and grounded and is very comfortable at highway speeds. It also has a great display, a TFT display that's color, that does have some smartphone capability, and it has a windscreen that's really good, blocks the wind, and it's adjustable. You can adjust this on the fly. This bike does have ABS on and off that you can do on the fly, and you're able to look and see on the TFT display whether it's on or off. The Ibex 450 is a great value. At $64.99, it's $1,000 less than the KTM 390, and it does very well both on-road and off-road. Our final point that makes this bike shine is that there's a lot of people that enjoy riding this bike and say it's easy to ride, or at least it's confidence building. And I think some of that has to do with its low seat height at 31.5. So it's got the lowest seat height in class. And now sometimes that can be a negative as far as body positioning, but for a new rider, someone getting into ADV riding, that low seat height is comforting. And I think the Ibex 450 did things well as far as setting this bike up both on and off-road for a new adventure rider. So where does the new Ibex 450 suck? Well, quite honestly, there's not much here. We're going to be nitpicky here. We're going to say that the handguards are a little bit thin and that you probably want to upgrade those. They'll probably break if you drop the bike, but really we don't have a lot. The main thing I would say is the reliability concerns. You know, this bike is made over in China, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it hasn't been out for a long time, and so we really don't know what this engine is made of and how long it'll last. It might be just as good as the Japanese bikes, we don't know, but right now that reliability issue is still a concern. Next up, the skid plate seems to be a little bit thin. It can take gravel and things like that, but you're going to do some serious off-road riding, you're going to want to upgrade that skid plate. And along those lines, people have commented that the plastics seem to be a little cheap or a little thin, especially around the tank and the side panels. So that's it. That's all we got on the Ibex 450. It seems on paper and while riding, it's a great bike and a great purchase, and that's why it's made the top 3. There you have it, my top 3 lightweight ADV bikes in this division. Now, I've gone through all the specs, a lot of the reviews, and come to the conclusion that the KTM 390 Adventure R wins the performance crown. Now let's move on to the CFMoto Ibex 450. And this bike gives you the most for your money. I mean, the list of features you get for the price is kind of insane. CFMoto wins the crown for best value. And now let's move on to the Royal Enfield Himalayan. This bike is a sentimental favorite. I started back onto riding off-road on the Himalayan 411, so I need to find out what to do with this bike. Because it doesn't win best performance, it doesn't win best value, you don't get all the features you do on the Ibex 450, but it is my sentimental favorite. It's got great looks and a simple design, and it wins the crown of what I call the joy of riding. It's just so much fun to ride, and for me personally, it's a great looking bike. If I have to pick one of these bikes as the overall winner, I'm going to have to go with the KTM 390 Adventure R. This bike is just about a 50-50 bike. It does everything really well, and it sits on top when it compares to the other two models. So that's my best bike overall. But what if I was to buy a bike today? Which bike would I buy? Well, I'm going to go with the sentimental favorite, and I'm going to buy the Royal Enfield Himalayan 450. And that might surprise you because right now the KTM leads in almost everything. The Ibex 450 is just the best value that you can find out there, but the Himalayan 450 is my sentimental favorite. I just can't get past the look of that bike. I can't get past the history and the fact that it will do everything that I need on a motorcycle. And so when it comes down to where my money is going to go, right now at this point in time, I would buy the Royal Enfield Himalayan 450. So there you have it. Those are the top three. There's my best overall. There's the one that I would buy. But what's great about this category is we have so many new light ADV bikes coming into the market. This is really a great time to be an adventure rider, especially in the small displacement category. Thanks for watching the video today. Do me a favor, check out my affiliate links. You can save some money on motorcycle products there. Also, if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button. That helps the channel as well. But more importantly, stay tuned. We've got one more thing with Zoe. Where are we headed today, TT?
Where me play?
Can you hear me with those muffins on your ears?
Yeah.
That police car behind you is ready to take you. I'm sorry.
No.
It's an intervention.
No.
It's a Buffalo Plaid intervention. Are you the only one here in Buffalo Plaid? No? Where else?
I don't wanna.
You're going to give me your chair, right? No. Who do you think's going to be at the very end?
I know. Oh.
Who usually shows up at the very end of the Christmas parade? You've done Special Olympics, haven't you? Yes.
Hi. You want a paddle?
Hey, look at How was it, TT?
Drink,